Welcome to Leggari, everyone. Learn how to prep your concrete like a pro. In this video, we'll walk you through the step-by-step process on how to prep your floor before installing an epoxy floor kit. If you're not already a Leggari subscriber, hit that red button so you don't miss out on any of our new videos. Now let's get started.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go over all the prep tools that you wanna use to do diamond grinding, prepping your surface if you guys are gonna wind up grinding the actual concrete. So behind me, we have a few options. So if you have smaller floors, you guys can get all this stuff at Home Depot. These angle grinders, it's just an angle grinder. And then they also have the diamond wheels and then also dust shrouds. So you can get this full setup at Home Depot. And then they also have the smaller one, 4-inch one, same thing, angle grinder, diamond cup wheel, and then the dust buddy, the dust shroud. So, and this hooks up to a vacuum. Really simple, really good for minimizing dust and stuff because you do create a lot of dust when you're grinding. So we'll typically, you know, in a large garage like this, we'll typically use that for the edges and then maybe the little guy to get into nice small areas. And we always connect those to vacuums to minimize the dust. And then right here, you can rent these walk behind grinders. These are great for larger floors. Obviously grinding by hand is kind of a pain. So bigger projects, bigger garages, whatever you guys are doing, you can rent these from Home Depot. Most rental places rent the actual concrete walk behind grinders. And then this is just a vacuum, a heavy duty vacuum to go to the floor grinders because it create a lot more dust. So these are great. We got both of these from a rental company. Like I said, you can call around, tell them what you're doing. They'll set you guys up. And then if you guys are doing like, you know, the small angle grinders with the dust shrouds, you can also just use a rigid vac and get a filter and make sure you get a bag in there also. That bag's gonna keep the filter from getting clogged and you'll be able to vacuum for long periods of time without having to replace the filter. You just put a new bag in, real simple. So these are kind of the options for prep. And again, you know, you can grind floors with this by hand, it just takes longer. Obviously larger ones, you wanna use something like a walk behind grinder and then always have a vacuum to minimize the dust. And again, you can get these dust shrouds, they're called dust buddies from Home Depot. I think Lowe's even has those. A few other options for prepping your floors. Again, like I said before, there's a lot of options for prepping, whether it's acid etching, you know, walk behind grinder, angle grinder, diamond cup wheels. But these two things worked really great. Probably our most favorite and the most aggressive and most used in like commercial industrial settings for achieving the best bond that you can get is using a shot blaster. Now, these are really great. They only do small passes, so you obviously got to do a lot of passes on larger projects, but these work absolutely amazing. And they also will remove the sealer off your concrete if you have sealer as well. So it'll remove the sealer and prep the concrete surface at the same time. So we really like these. This right here is a floor sander, and it's called a Dyma brush attachment. It has these blades here. These work great for removing like carpet glue, sealer, stuff like that. It doesn't heat the sealer or the carpet glue up and just smear it. It kind of just peels it off slowly, so it works great. So I'm gonna show you guys both of these in action. Now, Home Depot rents these Dyma brush attachments and floor sanders, so Home Depot will rent you guys this stuff, and then Sunbelt Rentals rents the shot blaster, the walk behind grinder, so, and they're nationwide. So call Sunbelt Rentals, see if they have it in stock. If they don't have it in stock, they can get it there, so call ahead of time, right? Plan out your project, get everything dialed in, reserve your machines that you want to use, and then you'll be dialed in. But I recommend doing the shot blaster. That's going to be the fastest way, especially if your concrete's sealed. Now, if you're going to do a walk behind grinder, it's nice to remove the sealer with the Dyma brush first. It'll help the grinder get to the concrete a lot faster. But I'll show you guys both of these in action. And then again, you can kind of make your pick. But our preference, the thing that we like to use the best is the shot blaster or the walk behind grinder. And then obviously hit your edges with the smaller diamond cup wheels.
We want to show you how to make what's called like a termination point or a termination joint at the edge of your garage. So it's never good to just stop a coating and then have kind of what we would call like a trip edge or just like a high edge. Now inside a house, a lot of times it's easy because you can do tile on top of it, or it's going underneath trim or underneath carpet. But out here in the garage, if we just stop the epoxy right here and it's high, that edge is going to take a lot of damage and it's more prone to chipping off. Now, we don't have them chip off a lot, but you definitely could. If people are scraping snow, you're just gonna get right under that, and that blunt force, there's a lot of pressure on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut into the concrete just a little bit, just enough, maybe a quarter of an inch, eighth of an inch, just enough to get some epoxy down in there so it acts a lot like rebar. So to give you an idea, if I have my concrete here and I just cut a little slit, this is the width of a blade. If I run my epoxy all the way to this edge and it fills this in, now this edge, even though it's still kind of like a trip edge, it's anchored down into the concrete with all of this. So a lot of times what happens is people just have their concrete slab and then they put tape here like we're gonna show you, and then the epoxy will just stop right here, and it runs the risk of just chipping right off and even delaminating continuously. So the idea is that we're gonna cut into the concrete and we're gonna run the epoxy to the other edge of that and fill this in. It acts a lot like rebar, where if you wanna chip this edge out, you have to chip all of this out, not just a little piece sitting on top of the concrete. So I hope that makes sense, and we'll show you. Really, don't be intimidated by this at all. This is so easy. This is just a cheap grinder from you can get them at Walmart. This one, I don't remember exactly where we got this, but you can buy these for like 30 or 40 bucks. These little concrete diamond, cutting wheels, these are cheap as well. And we're just going to sink this a little bit into the concrete and just follow some tape just to give ourselves a termination point. It's very easy, but we want to do it underneath the concrete door. The goal is when this concrete door is shut, from the inside you see your beautiful floor, and from the outside it's just regular concrete. So we want that termination point to be right in the middle of the door. So the easiest way to do that is the first thing we're going to do is just actually close the door just to find out where the edge of the door is. So what I'm going to do to mark it is I'm just going to look at the seal and I'm going to put the tape, oops, a little dirty there. I'm going to put the tape right there at the edge of the seal. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to do one in the middle. And now, kind of know where our line's at. So at this point, it's really easy. We just want to move about a ½ inch on the inside of that using tape. And you can obviously get help to do this. I'll have Tyler stand on that. We'll pull it tight. Obviously, you don't have to eyeball it. You can measure it. So right here, that is definitely anywhere from a ¼ inch to a ½ inch underneath the door. So now, I don't need to pull this tape. I can actually just leave it. I don't need to do a chalk line. I will actually cut on the edge of that tape, and then I'll pull the tape. And this is just, again, to make sure there's a lot of longevity right at the edge of our floor. We don't want it to begin to chip off from this outside edge, and this outside edge is the part that's most prone to damage. So, got a vacuum. We're gonna be able to somebody can just walk behind me, they'll follow me with the vacuum, and I'll cut with that wheel. So, some things you want: safety glasses, or really cool sunglasses, ear protection, face mask. You don't want to breathe concrete dust. You don't want anything to shoot in your eyes, and the tools are kind of loud. So, safety first. Okay, as you can see, this didn't take long, maybe a minute to cut this. And a couple tricks. So you can, have a wide piece of metal or something metal and have somebody stand on it and just run along and trace that line if you want to make it easy. We have a pretty steady hand because we've been doing this a while, but the other trick is if you just want to freehand it, it's not hard. The key is that you got to sink it down into the concrete just a little bit. Otherwise, that blade just kind of bounces around on the surface. So the trick is to sink it into the concrete and then just move it slowly. And it's very easy to control at that point. So regardless of what you want to do, you don't have to do these termination cuts like this. Thousands of people haven't, but it is definitely something we recommend to really minimize the edge of it, which is more prone to damage. So that's an option to help you guys with the front of your floor.
We'll go into showing you guys, we've already started the edges, and you can see we're only going out about 4 inches on our edges because the walk behind machine will get, pretty close, but you can tell the difference from grinding versus the hard troweled concrete. So we're trying to get down to the aggregate. We want to get rid of this cream layer. We're going to get an amazing bond with our primers and epoxies if we can get past this cream layer. So that's kind of the idea of getting down to the aggregate, removing that cream layer, and those concrete diamond cup wheels are what's going to do it, and the walk behind grinder. So we'll go into showing you how we grind right now, and I'll show you a few tips with the angle grinder. When I'm grinding with this angle grinder, if you hold it flat, it can take a little bit longer to grind because most concrete's not perfectly flat. There's kind of lows and highs in it. So I'll tilt it up. I'll put my hand here, apply a little pressure, and I'll tilt it up just a little bit. You don't want to tilt it up a lot, just barely enough to where the majority of the pressure is on the front edge. And that's going to grind through a lot faster because you can see I held it flat here and we got a low spot. So what I'll do is you can grind spots like that, and then I'll tilt it up a little, just a tad bit, and I'll hit these low spots and it'll grind those right out. So edges go really fast if you tilt it and kind of just grind it and move it on. We just don't want to gouge the surface. You can see how pretty flat it is, right? That's kind of what we're looking for. Want it nice and smooth and flat. And then when you guys stop the grinder, you don't want to just let go of the trigger and let go because it's going to gouge out the concrete. So just let off the trigger. Once it stops, let go. But that's pretty much it. Pretty simple process. It is a little more time consuming when you're grinding by hand, but some of these jobs, it's kind of necessary. So again, best way to prep, concrete grinder or an actual shop blaster. And you can even sub or hire, someone to come in and prep your slab or concrete for you as well. If you don't want to do that, you can call around. Most guys will come in and they'll grind, and prep your surface for you before you do the actual coating. So we'll go into showing you how we grinded the edges, how we grinded the patcher paste, and that's going to be next. All right, so now I'm gonna show you guys how to run the walk behind grinder. We do have it attached to the vacuum, so we're gonna minimize a lot of the dust. Very simple. It's gonna just kind of do its own thing. We're just gonna kind of move it around. It's typically gonna just glide on the surface, easy to move, and I'll show you guys the process. So we're gonna get everything turned on, and then you'll see basically what we're looking for when we're doing a walk behind grinder. So you can obviously tell right here we have the hand grinder we did with the cup wheel. So this will be a little bit different. It won't be as aggressive, but we do want to still scuff it up best we can to get rid of this smooth, hard troweled layer. Again, like I said before, you're not gonna get the profile you will with the 7-inch angle grinder. It's just a lot more rowdier. You know, grinds the concrete a lot more, but you can see what we're getting. It's just taking off that cream layer, really scratching up the surface. So obviously the better you grind, the better you're gonna bond that you're gonna get. But typically we're looking for something like this. And it does, depending on, you know, some concrete will grind a little better than others, and this does have a sealer on it, so it is taking a little bit to get through the sealed surface. And I'll show you guys how to tell if your concrete's sealed. You can just take water, drip a little on the concrete, and if it just kind of beads up and doesn't soak in, typically that means you have some type of sealer on your cement, so that will take a little more to grind that off and then get through the concrete. So obviously very easy process. It can be a little time consuming, but it's a lot better than being on your hands and knees grinding with a 7-inch grinder. And you can also hire companies to come out and prep your slabs for you as well. A lot of companies will come grind it, they'll shot blast it, stuff like that. So that is another option. Obviously, there's no dust extraction tools for this, so it can get a little dusty. So if you're doing lots of area, wear a mask, wear a respirator, stuff like that. I'm just gonna show you how it works. And then I'll go on to the shot blaster. And this is relatively loud, so you are gonna wanna wear some ear protection. But it's basically just gonna start spinning on the floor, and you'll start to see some chunks of sealer flip off, and then I'll grab some of that and show you guys what that looks like. And it's shooting this stuff all over the floor, but this is the sealer that is peeled off, but it didn't like gum it up and start smearing it around. So this works great for removing sealers without heating it up and gumming it up. Same thing with carpet glue, stuff like that. This works really well. So I'll go a little bit more for you. And these do have diamond pads on them, so some guys will actually, you know, prep their concrete floors with this. It is gonna take a lot longer, but you can tell it's starting to, once it gets through that sealer, it'll start to scuff that concrete up, similar to, you know, a cup wheel grinder or a concrete grinder. But again, this is gonna take a lot longer. The fastest thing is a walk behind grinder, and then the best thing to use again is that shot blaster. So I'll show you guys the shot blaster now, and you'll be able to see the difference. The shot blaster will eat right through the sealer and prep the concrete just like if we were to grind it by hand. So very awesome tool to use. All right, so here's the shot blaster. It takes shot blasting beads, which you fill in here. They're just like metal beads. And you'll get this with when you guys rent the machine, you'll get a bag of beads or a couple depending on your project. So you would dump the beads into here, and then we're gonna hook a vacuum attachment up to here, and this is set up to where it doesn't suck the beads up out of here. It collects the dust, and it's still gonna suck up some of the beads, but down in here is where it's sucking out. It's the metal contraption here makes it so it doesn't suck all the beads out, which is really cool. And then so I'm gonna hook a vacuum up to this. We obviously have the big vacuum. You can use the shop vac, just make sure you have the bags in there like I was saying before. So you can hook the vacuum up there. That's gonna minimize the dust. And this thing's pretty loud, so you will wanna wear ear protection. And all we're gonna do is once I turn this on, the beads aren't gonna shoot out until I pull this trigger up. So once I pull this trigger up, I wanna start moving. And depending on, you know, how hard your concrete is, you might be able to move a little faster than I am. This is some really hard concrete, and it has sealer on it too. So it's going through the sealer and prepping the surface. So I'll kind of show you how that works. So you can see how amazing this works, right? This is where we grind it by hand, and then this is the shop blaster. Same exact profile. And if you're getting your garages with this type of profile, you're never gonna have an issue with delamination. I mean, this is the best thing that you can do to a concrete surface prior to an epoxy floor. And if you were gonna hire a professional contractor, it's gonna charge, you know, 10 to 12 bucks a square foot, maybe even more, depends on your project. That's the type of stuff that they're gonna do. They're gonna shop blast, they're gonna get it like that. So you guys getting your floors like that is the way to go for sure. So that's why we like using the shop blaster. And again, this is our most favorite. Walk behind grinders next. And then obviously, you know, small projects you can do with the cup wheel and the angle grinder by hand. But again, bigger stuff, garages, these things work great. A few things on this machine. We can reuse these beads. Just clean them up and we can dump them back in there. You might get a couple times of reusing these beads until they don't work as good. And then the other thing, you don't want to just pull this trigger and let this thing sit there, because it'll just dig a hole in the cement, like a gouge in the cement. So always be moving it, right? Always have this thing moving when this thing's running. And the faster you go, the less it's gonna do. So just kind of see, you know, the profile that it's leaving. Again, some concrete's you're gonna be able to go a little faster on. This is some really hard concrete, so, and having that sealer on it's gonna take a little bit longer. But this is the type of profile we're looking for. And then obviously, you know, we'll show you guys how to clean stuff up and get it all clean before we do the actual epoxy. But those are the machines to use. We're gonna do the whole garage with the shop blaster, get the whole profile like this so we can see the aggregate. And we're not gonna have any issues with delamination or bonding. This is gonna create a really awesome bond with our epoxy coatings. All right, so you guys saw me hit this little area here. I swept up the beads and I poured those back into the shot blaster because again, we can reuse those. I took out any big chunks or anything like that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go around and spot hit any of these spots that I can tell that weren't hit very well. These are typically low spots in the cement that might take 2 passes or so. We wanna get the majority of the whole area to look like right here. So I'm gonna go spot hit this. This section will be done, and then we'll go to a square. I'll do the whole square from start to finish, and we'll figure out how long that takes, and you guys will see that full process, and then we'll be able to tell you, you know, how long a typical 750 square foot garage would take to shot blast and prep it like this. Just keep in mind when the beads are on the ground, it can be a little slippery, so just be cautious of that. So this is done, so I'm gonna pick a whole new square. We're gonna do the whole thing on it, and we'll tell you how long that takes. All right guys, so I got this square completely done. I went one way the first pass, and then I shot blasted the next pass, and the profile is absolutely beautiful. Like I said, if you hire a professional company that's all they do is prep concrete, this is what they're gonna get it to look like. Absolutely beautiful. And this is the most aggressive profile that you can basically get for the bond that you want with the metallic epoxy. So perfect surface prep here. And this was 115 square feet. It took us a half an hour to get it like this. So both passes per hour, you guys can expect to get about 230 square feet per hour. So that's quite a bit. It's fast. It's basically dust free if you put the vacuum attachment on there. So it's an awesome product to use, awesome machine. So expect about an hour of shot blast. You're gonna do about 230 square feet. So this garage is 780 square feet. So if we were just to start this garage, it would take us about 3.3 hours. So it doesn't take long to prep, and especially if you're getting a surface profile like this. So this is exactly what we want. And again, we showed you guys multiple options on how to prep. We recommend the Shot Blaster. Sunbelt Rentals rents them, and they're nationwide. So call them, make sure you call them ahead of time, right? Make sure they have it in stock. If they don't have it in stock, they can get it from another They can get it from one of their companies. They'll just ship it to their location and then you guys can pick that up. So this is great to have. And again, just hook a rigid vacuum up to it, have a bag in that vacuum with the filter, and it's gonna do just as good as a big actual industrial grade vacuum. So I wanna show you guys the difference. So this square was grinded by hand, and you guys saw us shot blast this square. So this square took a half an hour. This square took an hour and a half to do by hand. So obviously the shot blaster is a way to go. It's not gonna, be a pain in the butt. You're simply walking behind a machine, but it gives you, even grinding, it gives you a similar profile. So if you come and look, so we're getting a similar profile. It's not as even as the shot blaster is, but we're down to the aggregate. We don't have any cream layer. There might be a couple spots that we'll want to hit. But again, these are the options, right? So it's the concrete grinder by hand, smaller projects, that works great. Obviously the garage, larger projects, rent the shot blaster. It's relatively cheap for what you're gonna be able to achieve as far as prep wise. And they're readily available at Sunbelt Rentals. So those are the two differences, and you can see grinded and shot blasting. It's just a lot more even of a profile. Doesn't create as much dust. All right guys, got it all cleaned up. We're reusing the beads, and you can see how nice it looks. Shot blaster versus diamond grind. Again, less dust, less mess, and it's a lot more efficient and faster. And another little tip for you guys is you can get those magnetic rollers, wheels for picking up like nails and stuff from construction sites. And these beads are magnetic, so you can pick the remainder of the beads up when you're done. So that's probably what we'll do, is we'll finish shot blasting. We'll grab our magnetic wheel thing, we'll run it over the floor, pick the majority of the beads left up, and then we'll probably blow everything into a corner and then vacuum the rest up to kind of clean the beads, because we want to make sure we get all these beads cleaned up, because it's gonna, obviously it'd be like debris in the epoxy when we coated it. The floor basically prepped, so now what we want to do is clean it. So you can rent these at almost any rental store. I think Home Depot rents them also. So it's just an auto scrubber or a floor scrubber, floor cleaner. It's basically what you guys see driving around like Walmart and stuff, or Home Depot cleaning the floors. So what it does, it has a scrubber on the front, puts water out. So it'll put water out on this scrubber, and then as I'm going, the squeegee on the back here will suck that water up. Now these are vital because we don't want to induce the concrete with a bunch of water. So this basically scrubs it and vacuums it up immediately. And so it doesn't get right to the edges. So I have the mop here. So how I like to do it, I'll go around the perimeter as far as I can go. I don't really have a long cord here, but I'll do as much as I can on the edges. And then I'll mop the edges in. And then once I get the perimeter done and mopped, I just have to focus on the middle of the floor. Now, if your floor is really dirty, say you grind it a lot, the best way to check is run your hand across it. If you're getting like a white film on your hand, you probably should hit it again. Or say it dries and you see like white streaks and stuff, you want to hit that again. So I'll show you guys the process. But again, the biggest thing is we don't want to soak the concrete with water before we put our epoxy down. And we recommend doing this a day or two before you're actually going to lay the epoxy. That way the concrete can dry out. So we're gonna hit this now, and it's Thursday, and we'll probably coat this garage probably Monday, just kind of how it's working out. But the longer you can wait, right, let that concrete dry out, the better. But it's good to have an auto scrubber instead of pressure washing, because you're just gonna be soaking the concrete with water But again, if that's your last resort, we've had a lot of guys pressure wash garages, let them dry out for a few days and then coat without any issues. So I'll kind of show you how this works. You know, obviously machines are different, but they usually have the amount of water you can put down. I usually go at three droplets. That's the max water it's gonna put down. Now, if you're getting just a lot of excess, drop that down to 2 and try that. So that's what these are for usually. And then this is obviously the vacuum, and then this is the scrubber. But again, some machines are different, but that's how you would use this one. All right, so I like to hit my edges and then mop the edges while the water's still wet. And I can already tell this is gonna need another pass. I can kind of see some spots in it. So we'll just take the mop and we're just trying to get as close to that edge as we can. Make sure you're getting your corners good. And that's basically the process, but if you look, you can kind of see random dirty spots in the floor, like right here. So we hit that one more time, this floor should be perfectly clean. So that's kind of the process, auto scrubbing. Hit your edges, and if you have someone helping you, they can mop your edges while you're using the auto scrubber. But yeah, hit your edges, mop it up, and then just go back and forth. And you noticed I had my cord on the right side, and I kept weaving back and forth. That way I didn't have to move the cord every time. So if you're gonna start here and work your way out of the garage, make sure you're plugged in like on this side of the wall. Get a couple feet on this side done, on your edges also, and then just go back and forth, and you're not gonna have to move your cord every time. So you just go back and forth. The cord will always be behind you. If you don't do it like that, you're gonna be fighting the cord, going under it, pulling it over you. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So that's a nice little Leggari tip for you. So we'll finish this up, and then it's basically ready for epoxy. So we'll show you guys that next. And another thing, we grinded the stem walls, just knocking down any imperfections or chunks that were on it. So you'd obviously want to clean that as well. And I mean, you can just do that with your mop also. Just go around here, clean those walls off. So again, the biggest thing is prep is key, and also getting the floor clean once you're done creating a lot of dust and debris and stuff. So really take your time at this point and make sure it's nice and clean. And then obviously we like to blow the rooms out a few times before we actually put the epoxy down. So we'll finish this up and show you guys the next step.